as I got to know her better, I realized that she was wanting to get stronger because she was someone that also had a grandson with a disability that basically had him immobile. So for the longest time, she was having to carry him, but he was still growing. So she was needing to get stronger because as she was getting older, so was he, and he was getting
Yeah.
larger, and
And
it was
heavier,
becoming
yeah.
more difficult for her to carry him and get him to where he needed to go. It's things like that where you just need to realize that as much as it is for you, it is also for the betterment of your caregiver.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Being Real podcast. Today we are talking about prioritizing self-care and the importance of making yourself a priority, especially when you're navigating medically complex diagnoses and you are providing care, so much care to others in your life. For me, that's my son Elijah. Joining me for today's conversation is Coach Jeff. You have seen him on another Being Rare podcast episode. We actually did one, I guess it was about a year or so ago, with Dr. Aditi and my friend Michelle. You can actually find that on our YouTube, excuse me, on our YouTube and wherever you stream your podcast. But today is just Coach Jeff, and we wanted to have a conversation about the importance of making yourself a priority. For me, in 2024, that was taking charge of my health. And I actually have another episode that goes more in depth about, what that was all about. You can check that out. But today, we wanted to talk specifically about some tips and some strategies and why you should care, why you should make yourself a priority. So we're going to jump right into today's conversation. Coach Jeff is a certified personal trainer, certified through the National Association of Sports Medicine. He is also a professional bodybuilder, and he is my eldest child, my firstborn. And so I'm really excited to have him be a part of today's conversation. So welcome, Jeff, to the Being Rare podcast.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. So before we jump into the questions, do you have anything in terms of introduction to share about yourself, or should we just get started?
I think we're good to get started.
Awesome, good stuff. All right, so first question. I just, want to talk about, for a lot of families navigating rare diagnoses and medically complex diagnoses, it's really challenging to find some time for yourself when you are the caregiver in that scenario. Why do you think it's so important for people to prioritize themselves, even if it's just for a few minutes every day? Why is that an important practice that we should do?
I think it's important because it's kind of a recharge to your battery. It allows you to be the best version of yourself, and allows you to operate at your highest capacity, which is just going to improve or keep you at your best potential of what you can be as far as being a caregiver, and everything else that you might have on your plate. So, if you're taking care of yourself, it just allows you to be even better to take care of everyone else.
hmm And I think I think we hear that often. You can't pour from an empty cup. How can you truly give to others if you're not giving to yourself? And we hear those cliches, if you will, all the time. But as caregivers, I think sometimes we feel like it's so difficult. But I will say that when I became intentional about um making myself a priority. And when I say making myself a priority, I think too we have to consider it's not going to look the same for everybody. It's going to look different for everybody. To somebody, that means going to get a massage. To somebody, that means enjoying a book or sitting for 5 seconds in the bathroom by yourself. You know what I mean? Like it's not going to be the same for everyone. And I think, when we consider what making time for yourself looks like, we have to start with what we want for ourselves. Like what would refuel you, what would recharge you. Um I for me, just over the past year, I have lost, and I've been very open about it. I have lost more than like 80 pounds. Um, um, and I know that's not a goal for someone else. It's for somebody else. It may not be about weight loss or overall health, because my weight loss was really more so about trying to get off medication, which ultimately was because I want to be the best version of myself for all of my kids, not just Elijah, but Elijah requires the most of my time. Um, so I think, my next question for you would be, how can someone um like get started? Like almost like a self-assessment. You know what I mean? Like when it comes to prioritizing yourself, how do you self-assess what that looks like? Um, I've heard people say, "What is self-care?" Like I've heard people ask that question, especially moms. So how do you self-assess to even know what your self-care target should be?
So kind of like you said, as far as like finding the time to like prioritize yourself, you have to start initially with prioritizing your time. So finding the time to even be able to sit down and figure yourself out, to be able to figure out, you know, what brings you peace, what brings you joy, what makes you happy, in regards to, find those things that will, make you less stressed or tired or just mentally drained from the things that, happen on day-to-day activities. Um, so I know for myself, it's a case of, just being able to sit down for a couple minutes when I come home from work or working out, playing the game, just being able to turn my mind off.
Mhm.
So finding those things that work for you, would be a good place to start because you at least have that list, of activities that you can go to that are like your happy place.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that would be a great place to start. And then from there, it would just be a matter of continuing to prioritize your time so you can start implementing more of those things into your daily activities.
So it doesn't have to even start like really intense or super big. You know what I mean? Like I think sometimes when we think about things like this, I think we have been programmed, is the word I'll use, to feel like if it's not drastic, it's not impactful, then why are you putting up the effort? But small changes can lead to big time goals. And I'm just a living witness to that, right? Like it starts small, manageable things that you can do, can get you big time goals. And so I like the idea of just really taking the time to self-assess and jot down things that bring you joy and peace, and if you can't come up with anything, then start there. Why can't I think of something? You know what I'm saying? Like, why can't I think of something that brings me joy, that brings me peace? Like, why am I having challenge? And a lot of times it's going to be because you've never given yourself the permission to have those thoughts for yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like you've been on autopilot for so long, even if so long is 2 weeks or 2 months or 2 years or 20 years. Like that's relative, the time frame. But the reality is, I think sometimes the difficulty is because we haven't given ourselves the permission to do that for ourselves. Um, so let's transition a little bit into just like practical tips. Because I like practical examples in the sense of folks will say, "Oh, well, all you have to do is this," and then that's where they leave you, and then and so you still have no idea where to get started. For me, and one of the challenges that I had was trying to figure out how to coordinate dinners and meals and workout time for myself. Because again, my self-care goal was my health. Um, um, and then to my mental health in the sense of, um, because I was already a don't really care what people think kind of person, but truly living in that mentally, like my life is so different than so many other people. So, um, I don't expect people to understand things that I navigate. And so really, really resting in that truth. Um, but let's talk about how we can get started on prioritizing ourselves. So, what are some manageable few minute things that a person can do to kind of get this started? We've already self assessed, we've identified some things that we know bring us joy, bring us happiness. Now what?
So again, like I would say, prioritizing the time. So I know one of the biggest things for myself to make sure that I can have that time to be able to do other things, is making sure that I have like my food and everything already situated. So that may be a case of, all right, let me have 1 or 2 days throughout the week where I focus on, making sure I have my food prepped. So whether it's like a Sunday and a Wednesday or a Monday and a Friday, something like that, where I'm sitting down for a couple minutes and I am prepping my chicken, I'm prepping my rice and potatoes or all of this other stuff for the week so that throughout the week, I'm not having to do that. I'm
Hmm.
still having to piece certain meals together, but I'm not having to do the whole thing as far as cooking everything and making the meal every day, every night, throughout the week. Is
Hmm.
part of it is already done because I've taken care of it ahead of time, and now it's just a matter of how do I want to piece it together today.
Yeah,
So finding those moments in time where you can maybe break down some of your other things ahead of schedule, to make your life easier throughout the week,
yeah,
is a good way to start for sure.
yeah, yeah. And I gotta say, meal prep was something huge for me. I noticed that when I felt the most stressed in terms of just busyness and the demands of like life and extracurriculars and all the stuff, I noticed that's when we did a lot of takeout. And because I didn't have anything planned, and then you look up and it's too late to start something, even if you have groceries, because it's I hadn't properly planned for like the day or whatever. And so, and one thing that I did try like the little box kits at one time, where they send everything to you and all the ingredients and all the stuff. And I gotta say, I mean, it worked in the sense of everything was delivered to the door, but it did not work for me long term, because those kits really are not equipped for a family the size as mine, as large as mine. Because like something that's supposed to take 30 minutes to prepare, it still took like an hour and a half, 2 hours for a family my size. Like it wasn't for it's for two, three people. It's not for seven. So or six with at the time because my eldest kid wasn't living at home. But it was not for yeah, it was not for the big family. And so I did that a few months. Um and it was fun in terms of like new meals and new recipes and different things like that. But it was just too stressful. It was too demanding. It was too much. And so, one thing that did work was better prepping in terms of, I took the time to think about what are we going to eat this week. And when I grocery shopped, I tried to like organize it in a way like I know we're going to do this day. I know we're going to do, even if I switch the days out, I knew that these vegetables go, I bought these sides for this meal in terms of the meat. You know what I mean? So it wasn't necessarily like batch prepping. My crock pot became a friend because I can just throw stuff in the crock pot, or throw something in the oven. But it really was being more intentional about what we were going to have for dinner. And I saved money because I stopped eating out as much. Of course, the nutritional value goes up because you're cooking at home and you've got a plan. And so I will say that that's something that did um, work for me. And I mean, and it's something that I still do today. And some days I still say, nope, today we're going to eat out somewhere. That still happens, but it does not happen nearly as much because I do try to better plan, what the evening and what the night is going to look like. So let's talk a little bit about like stress because I know for me when nutrition was poor, a lot of time it was because of stress. It was, and I don't mean like you're overwhelmed with life type of stress. I mean just everyday, everyday things that just kind of keep you mentally all over the place. I got to do this, I got to go here, I got this going on and all the stuff. Like what can people do to manage stress? Um I know I enjoy working out when I make myself go. And that's something that's helpful for me. But to the person who can't make it to the gym, or to the person who in the few minutes of downtime that they have, they want to just sit because they rip and run doing so much other things. Like what are some stress management tips? Just as a trainer, we're all your clients. How would you tell us to manage our stress?
So, um, as a trainer, I would recommend the working out because that would be a case of that might be an outlet for you to relieve some stress while at the same time working on the health and other, fitness goals that you may have. So it kind of hits multiple things at the same time.
Mhm.
So like that would be my first, uh, I guess, solution or tip or thing to try. I understand that not everybody enjoys working out though. So that would be one where if I know that's not necessarily that person's peace or happiness, we would resort back to, prioritizing yourself and finding those things that make you happy.
Mhm.
Finding those moments in time where you're able to sit down. So, um, when I'm not, um I guess, relieving my stress while being in the gym, one of my other ways to do that is to play the game, to be able to just turn my mind off and um, just let everything just be okay for a little while,
Mhm.
whether it is or it isn't. Like I'll sit there, I'll play the game for X amount of time, and something simple that just, lets my mind run on anything but what I don't want to think about right now.
Mhm.
Um, so finding those moments where it's a case of you're able to prioritize those things would be my next solution, which is something that more people will be able to enjoy consistently. Finding those things to just keep you level and bringing that stress down.
Yeah.
Um, Aside from that, um, I would say just trying to get back into a routine. Some of the times that I have been stressed more than usual, it's because my routine was broken.
Mhm.
So I know I do this in the morning, I do this throughout the day, I do this at night, and it leads and follows everything right next to each other. Um, so being able to, when things get a little hectic, kind of making that bullet point
Yeah.
or the checklist where you're able to just know, all right, these are the things that I have to do today. Let me get back into my routine so I can have some order to my day
Mhm.
again. So I can relieve that stress of, things getting busy, a little too busy, so that I can get back on track. And that
Yeah.
usually eases things back together for me as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's so important to highlight that, a lot of times we say, especially a lot of the rare moms that, I have conversations with, or just, moms with who are navigating medically complex children. Um, we talk and joke about the inability to have a routine. And I always say, you know, I am consistent in being inconsistent. And so that's my routine, right? Like I know, but I think even in knowing that at any moment things can shift, I still have a form of a routine. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm still starting my day most days at the same time. Um, if Elijah's at school, he's home today just because he was snotty and but on a typical day routine, he would be at school and throughout the day, that's when I'm trying to incorporate like my workout time for myself and um I'm working, I'm navigating all the other things, but um, even with today being a disruption of my routine. So I may not make it to the gym. That doesn't mean there's not something that I can do. It's easy to just say, well, Elijah's home today, so I'm gonna just chill out with him. And if I choose to do that, that's my business. And I think all of that plays into our stress and our mental health too because I've been that person who if if my routine was disrupted, now I'm thrown off to the place to where I can't function. And so I'm trying to not let that be an excuse or a crutch because like how can I still make the best of the day even though I'm not doing what I normally would have done. So it's just a lot of that whole mindfulness I think is so important. Which leads me to my next thought. Like how do we get to a place where we recognize that self-care is necessary. We talked about the importance of um the recharge and the refuel and keeping ourselves grounded in the sense of, stress levels and all the stuff. Like how do we realize and accept that, making ourselves a priority is not it's not a luxury, if you will. It's necessary. Like, how do we change the way we think about it?
So I think that would come when you realize that you're not necessarily doing it for yourself. like you can have your own fitness goals, you can have your own health goals, but ultimately this is something that you are doing to be there for the people you're caring for.
Mm,
It's something that is allowing you to um, be better at what it is you do every day,
yeah.
or to do what you do every day for a longer amount of time.
Hmm.
I think back to one of my clients that I had. I would train her, and her goal was to get stronger. So for me, that seemed like, all right, cool. This lady wants to get stronger. I'm the coach for that. I see no issue with someone who is um, she was a little bit older, wanting to build some strength.
Hmm.
As I got to know her better, I realized that she was wanting to get stronger, because she was someone that also had a grandson with a disability,
Mm,
that basically had him immobile. So for the longest time, she was having to carry him, but he was
mm,
still growing.
yeah.
So she was needing to get stronger because as she was getting older, so was he, and he was getting
Yeah.
larger, and
And
it was
heavier.
becoming
Yeah.
more difficult for her to carry him and get him to where he needed to go. So um, it's things like that where you just need to realize that as much as it is for you, it is also for the betterment of your caregiver.
Yeah, man, that's so good. Wow. And such a good example, like how cool is that? Like she was trying to build strength, not because she just wanted to be strong, but because she wanted to be stronger to carry her grandson was who had a disability. Like that is the coolest example um, of why it's so important to take those few extra minutes for yourself, because you want to be healthy for yourself too. But because I wanted to be healthy because I was sick of my medication, which I'm still on one that I'm trying to get off. But ultimately, it's that self-assessment. Why am I on the medicine? You know what I'm saying? What does being on the medicine do for me? Well, for me, it led to more medicine. I mean, so it's true that we have to consider as much as it is for you about you and your goals. It truly is about you and all the people around you, all the people in your space, and being a better version of yourself for yourself and then for others. All right, so what are some ways, like that was literally, we could have closed right there. But I do want to cover some ways that people can be active without traditional routines. Like everybody is not going to join a gym for whatever reason. It could be a financial strain, it could be, an intimidation of the gym. It could be, I just don't want to be bothered with going to the gym. I don't have a caregiver for my child, so it's easier for me to do something at home while they're napping, just whatever the case may be. How do we help people stay active who don't have a traditional workout routine? What are your tips?
Um, so
Even if that means like using things like at your house. You know what I'm saying?
I would say, honestly, and I feel like we talked about this in the last episode that I was on, but body weight movements,
Yeah.
they are extremely, extremely underrated. Um, it's one of those things where just being able to move your body will take you a long way. So being able to do planks, push-ups, body weight squats, or lunges, or whatever the case may be, like just body weight movements. going out for a walk. Like it doesn't necessarily need to be, that you're picking up metal or iron and moving some weight or like, yes, that helps. And it may speed up the process, but if you're unable to get to the gym or for whatever reason, being able to move your body is a very, very good starting point. So being able to do that, and because it's body weight movements, you don't necessarily need equipment. So honestly, you can do it anywhere. Not recommending, just busting out and doing some push-ups in Walmart, but uh, being able to do that in the living room or like I know you were telling me that my dad, he does like push-ups and a little bit of something before he hops in the shower to get in bed after. So like it's part of his nightly routine. Going back to the routine even. So just little things like that where you're able to throw it in throughout the day can over time help you be able to move your body better than you were, which will over time be able to help you in the long haul in regards to everything else.
And I mean, and I think the gist, people, is it doesn't have to be flashy. Like it doesn't have to be, you don't have to run out and buy the expensive gym equipment, and all the stuff that we feel like we have to do in order to be successful with it. Like I think we've been programmed to believe that if it doesn't look like this, then you're not doing something. You're not doing the thing. And that's just not the case. That's just not the case. And I mean, and I'm working. I'm struggling in that push-up area. I'm just saying I like I still have my knees down and I still could probably do two. Like I'm struggling in the push-up area, but in my wanting to be stronger, um I'm putting up the effort because I'm I'm like I'm like your client. I mean, Elijah is getting bigger and bigger and he has crossed over into like 34 pounds. That's a lot. Like he is not the little guy that you can just carry with one arm on your hip. Like you need both now. Um and so I need that strength to carry him and you know bath time, just all the things that I think we again when we're so on autopilot, we don't always consider. Like we're doing it in the motion and it's one of those, man, you getting heavy. But would he be as heavy if I was stronger? So
Exactly.
yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. So we've got some tips on push-ups, planks, all the different things you can try at home. Just any last thoughts, Jeff, on um, um, any last takeaways on anybody who's trying to figure out what self-care could mean for them? We've covered a lot of different things, but any last tips for the person who fast forwards to the end of the video to get the highlight? What would you say?
Um, I would say the wheel doesn't change. There are ways that you can make the wheel better. We aren't driving on stones anymore, but we still have wheels. So, what that means basically is in your moments of being stressed, in your moments of being unsure, go back to the basics. Um, you know, you can restart that routine, figure out by finding out your times, prioritizing your time. You can figure out what your day looks like when you have some free time, when you have some downtime, and from there, just being able to, find your peace, find some time to be active, and then find some time to clean up the food.
Yeah.
Between those three things, that will definitely improve your self-care, and from there it'll help you become a better caregiver.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. All right, guys. That's all we have for today. Again, this was something that was so important to me because it was my 2024. I truly, truly wanted to just make some changes for myself, and once I really got focused and committed to those changes, I actually made them. And I just, it was about just I stopped making the excuses. Honestly, that's what it was for me. Um, it wasn't always easy. And so I won't act like it was just a easy task or feat, because it wasn't. It was very, very it was hard, but I was intentional and I was up for it because I had committed to myself that I wanted to be a better version of myself. And so, are you accepting any new clients right now?
Yes, I am. I have a couple slots still available for both virtual and in person.
Cool. So, if you are looking for a personal trainer, I highly recommend um, Coach Jeff. He has been my go-to. He's my kid, so I can shoot him a text message and ask a couple of questions. But I think truly, if you are serious about trying to figure it out, I think it's worth, reaching out for a consultation and getting some information. If you're not yet following the Being Rare podcast, you should be. Go ahead and follow and subscribe. You can find all of our video episodes on YouTube, and you can listen in wherever you stream your podcast. I will put Jeff's information in the show notes. Let's take charge of our health and our life. The best way we can. Let's accept being the best version of ourselves that we can be. And so with that, until the next one, be rare. Holla.